Hello, welcome to Shaka Extra Time, a show that comes to you every week. I am Paul Indiho. Joining me from his home in Arlington, Virginia, a suburb of Washington, D.C., is Shaka Sali himself, aka the Kabale Kid. Hello, Ndugu Shaka.
Hello, Ndugu Paul.
How are you?
I have to say that I remain simple, easy, and as some of my fans have insisted, an awesome son of Mother Africa.
Well, I think today we are going to focus entirely on your fans. We've been getting a lot of correspondences, a lot of best wishes from your fans. So I think I'm going to let the fans take over. But perhaps let me start by asking you to share with some of your fans how a kid from Kabale ended up in Washington, D.C., or being the voice of Straight Talk Africa?
You know, that is a very, very interesting question. But let me, first of all, if you don't mind, permit me to ask you a very simple question. You obviously have been reviewing correspondence, reaction from the global audience, and specifically from Africa and the African diaspora regarding my planned retirement. What kind of sense do you get when you interact with that type of message? Do you get a sense that these fans are serious? And if they are, is it a sort of love or is it a sort of infatuation with the Kabale Kid?
It could be a combination of both, especially a lot of young girls want to know what's up with you. They ask all sorts of questions here. But genuinely speaking, I think people are fascinated by you as an individual, by your work that you've been able to do, and your story. I think what resonates with a lot of people is how you've been able to connect with audiences across the world for a very long period of time. Most of the best wishes that I've seen so far, they all think that you've been one of the best ambassadors that Africa has ever had. Somebody who speaks uh, very firmly about what's happening on the continent, somebody who inspires a lot of young people, and a person who tries to challenge the status quo or hold leaders accountable.
For that, I have to say, and I say this from the deepest, better part of the bottom of my Kabale heart and soul, that I am sincerely flattered and humbled. You alluded to a segment of the audience as being composed of what you characterized as young girls or young women. Do you get the sense that they still find me an eligible bachelor?
From what I see here, hey, you could be you could be on for the taking, my friend.
You mean I still remain a candidate?
Surprisingly, oh, not surprisingly, a lot of your fans are young women across the continent who admire you. Like you said, most of them are infatuated and they just want to see your face and hear your voice. What say you about that?
Very interesting. That sort of gives me another couple of years to pretty much enjoy my life on this planet Earth, I guess. I think it is largely, sincerely, largely because of the support of the audience. Without the audience, Ndugu, we wouldn't be here talking. I have been so lucky. In fact, I consider myself blessed because of the compliments and support that I have received from the audience over the years. I have had a lot of problems during my career, and that really comes with the territory. I have had a lot of pressure from here or there and what have you. But because of the consistent support of the audience, we have together survived. And for that, I honestly think that I shall always owe them a huge, profound debt of gratitude for the type of support they were able to give me that enabled me to survive as an effective reporter, presenter, and host at the Voice of America for the last 29 years. I can say without any hesitation that I am profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled for the opportunity that the audience has given me to host and present a program that clearly has attempted, first of all, to humanize them, and secondly, to call a spade, not a spoon when it is in fact a spade. This program has gone a long way, if anything, sincerely, to give the voice to the voiceless, to call upon the leaders, imposters, rulers, to account for their actions, to their bosses, really, who are the sovereign. And the sovereign, don't get me wrong, in any constitution, whether it is democratic or a democratically challenged constitution, are the people.
A lot of your fans have been asking why, for all these years, you've been able to do your thing in the best way possible, but your accent hasn't changed.
You know, that is a very interesting question that you asked, Ndugupor. You may not believe it, but over the years, especially the first 10 years, I was under tremendous pressure by some at the VOA management to become something that I wasn't, to actually meet what someone characterized as an international threshold, meaning to sound like an Anglo. At one time, to be honest with you, when I used to be in the lead of covering the Rwandan crisis, someone came to me and suggested that the capital of Rwanda, Kigali, is pronounced as Kigali, that I should pronounce the capital of Rwanda as Kigali. He also suggested that I should be pronouncing the city in eastern Rwanda as Ruhengeri, not Ruhengeri. And I told the gentleman that, look, I come from Kabale, and you probably may not know, but Kabale, the distance between Kabale and the Rwandan capital, Kigali, is less than 1 hour. And I even know the original meaning of the Rwandan capital, Ichigali. So I told him, I said, I happen to have studied cross-cultural communication at one of the world's respected research universities, UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, and history. And I also happen, by the way, to speak the Rwandan indigenous national language, Kinyarwanda. And where I may not speak it probably as a Rwandan, at least I understand it very, very well. Because part of my family, as a matter of fact, is partially Rwandan. And so I said, if there is anybody who would probably be in a position to teach the other, if there is anybody who would probably be in a position to teach one about how to pronounce the Rwandan capital, it would probably be the Kabale kid, not a guy from Oklahoma. So we just laughed it off. But that was not the end. Until I made my point to say that when it comes to broadcasting, which is not acting, not Hollywood, the key is to be authentic. The key is to be real, to be yourself, to be comfortable in your skin. The key is to invoke the idea of trust, of authority. And so long as it is broadcasting, and I really look forward to working in broadcasting for a very long time, I shall remain authentically Shaka'S, the kid from Kabale. So it was a struggle. It was not something that came very easily, Ndugu, because I have often told you that when I got the opportunity to host Straight Talk Africa, there is a journalist who asked me a very interesting question. And the question was, Shaka, what will it take for you to consider yourself a success of being the host of Straight Talk Africa? I remember telling the journalist whose first name was George, I said, George, I will only consider myself a success of hosting Straight Talk Africa if I could first and foremost succeed at remaining authentically Shaka'S, the kid from Kabale.
I've had the opportunity of traveling with you across the continent, and right from the airport to the hotels, people would affectionately refer to you as Mr. Exceedingly Humbled, profoundly humbled, or they
Mr.
would use,
Terrific.
yeah, Mr. Terrific. They would use your Shakaisms uh, as a way to connect with you, as a way to show that they have been your fans over the years. What would you say to those people?
Thank them from the deepest, better part of the bottom of my Kabale heart and soul. I would say that they really make me feel very, very proud, in the sense that here are the people who I think have told me in many ways, some of them, that when they see me on television or listen to me on radio and listen to my African accent, they pretty much find themselves seeing themselves in me. Which is very interesting because, to be honest with you, Ndugu Paul, I also equally see myself in them. And I guess what that actually does is what they say, we resonate. We basically click. And I think that is part of the secret of the success of Straight Talk Africa.
What would you say to young journalists out there, or young show hosts out there who emulate you and want to be like you?
I would say you are welcome to prime time. But you can only succeed in prime time if you are willing to work beyond the call of duty. You have to be prepared to research. You have to be prepared to adopt a style that is guided not by ideology, not by politics, not by romance, but a style that is guided and driven by facts, by evidence, in some cases, by science, by data. You have to be able to consider yourself a privileged dude who has the opportunity to be a servant of nothing but the truth. It's about the truth. So long as you do your job as reflected in being guided by the facts, being guided by the evidence, by science and data, you really have nothing to worry about. And so I think you definitely have, like I said, to make sure that you do your job beyond the call of duty. You do your homework before you face a newsmaker. What I always do, Ndugu Paul, and you know some of this, is that before I interact with a newsmaker, no matter who, whether it is a president, whether it is a university professor, whether it is an ordinary Joe, whether it is an ordinary Ndiho, I first and foremost do my homework about them. I make sure that I put myself at an advantage. That is, I make sure that I probably, if I could, know more about them than they probably know about themselves. And if I can't, at least I make sure that my information, my knowledge about them and what they do is on the same page.
Shaka, let's go to some of the comments. Let's start with Jovan Akampulila in Uganda. We shall miss you, dear Shaka. May God continue to bless and protect you. Your voice, rich vocabulary is going to be missed. But perhaps, if I may ask, are you going to continue inspiring a lot of young people on the continent?
Thank you very much for your interesting question, Ndugu Akampulira. As a matter of fact, let me take this opportunity to make this statement. I have been thinking over the years what my post-retirement would look like if I ever had an opportunity to retire from the Voice of America. And I have come to the conclusion that after retirement, I will be dedicating the rest of my life to getting an opportunity to motivating and inspiring the African youth to be the best that they could be at whatever they choose, drawing from my personal and professional journey. So that is really what I'm looking forward to.
Let's go to Bashir Assam. Shaka Sali, you have used your ability and opportunities available in the media to change the mindset of not only black people, but also the world at large. What advice can you give to young people who are covering world events and they also want to leave a profound impact on that community?
Thank you very much, Bashir, for that equally interesting question. I think my simple advice would be that if you really want to succeed in this business, you have to think in terms of doing the best that you could do with the circumstances that you find yourself in. I know that a lot of people in my business spend a lot of time working on their optics. I know that there are a lot of people who worry so much about how they look like. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that the audience really, more than anything else, want to benefit from your interaction. And so I think, just like somebody who sells very good houses would advise you that if you actually want a house, there are three things that you have to keep in mind: location, location, location. When it comes to this business of journalism, especially the type that I have been involved in, it also equally requires three very interesting key things that we have to look at: research, research, and research. It is the research that will give you the confidence, the ability, the flexibility to interact effectively with your audience and beyond.
And then Monica, she says, Shaka'S, you've been a great mentor, a great leader. Over the years, I've mentored so many people. Personally, I've been one of those beneficiaries of your mentorship, your guidance, and having had the opportunity to work with you for the last 15 or so years. You have had a profound impact on me and the likes of Monica. Uh, are you going to continue doing some of that?
Monica, first of all, thank you so much with those kind words. I have been very lucky and fortunate to interact with people like you and your colleagues. And to be honest with you, that is perhaps the best reward that I could claim for some in the audience saying they have benefited out of interacting with me. You know, I did not begin this really, Monica. What I am is essentially a reflection of a product, an individual that was very, very lucky to stand on the shoulders of those giants who came before me so that I could see a little bit further than them. And for that very reason, as I have often said, my shoulders are here and they are there for you, Monica, and your colleagues and others who may be interested to stand on them so that you too, in turn, would end up seeing a little bit further than the Cavalry Kid.
Let's go to another interesting comment from Adam Kihinde. Are we gonna truly miss your insight and diligent discussions on Straight Talk Africa and Shaka Extra Time? And even more importantly, your English accent or African accent. But do you have any plans, for example, to connect with some of the think tanks on the continent and maybe do more of that work where you lead panels, discussions on what's happening on the continent?
Adam Kihindi, thank you so much for your question and your insight. I think that I am a beneficiary, obviously, of both conventional and unconventional structures, but I think I prefer more of the unconventional structures. I sometimes joke by suggesting that I have actually succeeded in doing things my way. I would like to figure out a way, not very conventional, meaning not necessarily working with think tanks, but in some exceptional cases where there may be some opportunities, for example, of being a moderator, that will definitely be an option that remains on the table. But for the most part, as I said a little bit earlier, I would really like to get an opportunity to motivate and inspire the African youth to be the best that they could be at whatever they choose, drawing from my personal and professional journey, so that together we could make a difference to our mother continent.
Let's go to Mensa. He's from Ghana. He says, Mr. Kabale Kid, what would you attribute to your success, and what is it that you have done differently to be you, to remain you over the last couple of years?
Mensa, thank you so much for your question. You obviously come from a country that actually started it all for me. If there is any single individual that inspired me originally when I was a young kid in cavalry, courtesy of Drum magazine, and I started reading it when I was in junior high school in cavalry. Drum magazine introduced me to a remarkable African son by the name Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And I learned some lessons from him. You know, I could actually indulge myself and say, just like the English writer, poet, playwright, William Shakespeare, in his Julius Caesar, once used the three Latin words, veni, vidi, vici, that I came, I saw,
I conquered.
But you know, as an individual of humility, I would rather leave that for some political or philosophical analyst.
Let's go to Efyong in Nigeria. He says, Shaka, you've been a remarkable giant of Africa. Your show has left a profound impact on me as a viewer and as a listener. If Ugandans, I know you come from Uganda, if Ugandans don't want you to go back to Uganda, we will adapt you in Nigeria.
If young, that couldn't, that really makes my day. And you know, Oga, I have always liked Nigeria for many reasons. So thank you so much. I will definitely remain with my options open if the Ugandans do not like me to go back. But how can the Ugandans refuse or prevent me from going there? That is the land of my ancestors.
Shaka, thank you so much for your time.
You're most welcome, Ndugu.